Welcome to our chemistry practical session. Today we are going to introduce our topic of qualitative analysis. When we say qualitative analysis, we deal with identification of ions, identification of ions. When we say ions, we have a compounds. So within a compounds there is element, and that element it contains ions within that compound. So the ions we are going to identify within a compound or a salty sample. We are supposed to identify the cation with positive charge and the anion with the negative charge. So qualitative analysis we deal with identification of ions, cation and the anion within a salty sample. You can be provided with the unknown sample like this one. We have this sample, so this sample is unknown. So by using qualitative analysis and by using a guide sheet of qualitative analysis, you can identify the ions. We have this sheet, so you can perform experiment by using qualitative analysis to identify the ions, cation and the anion of the sample. So today we are going to start the qualitative analysis by looking with a systematic procedure of the quantitative analysis. Let's say when you say sodium chloride, this sodium chloride contains ions. The sodium is cation and the chlorine is anion, and right in that one. So this is anion. Sodium is cation and the chlorine is anion. So systematic procedure of identifying or performing qualitative analysis, we have the following. Systematic procedure. Systematic procedure in qualitative analysis, we have three systematic procedure. The first is preliminary test. The second, we have test in solution. And then the third, we have confirmatory test. So those we have preliminary test in solution, confirmatory test. So today we are going to deal with only preliminary testing, and we will perform only the first procedure on preliminary test. Preliminary test is performed through the following procedure. In order to perform this one, we have steps or another procedure in order to complete this step. Almost we have 6 procedures. The first is appearance of sample. We have appearance of the sample, we have flame test, we have action of heat, we have action of dilute hydrochloric acid, action of concentrated hydrochloric acid, and at the end we have solubility of the solid sample. So preliminary testing, in this case, when we perform qualitative analysis, we use only solid sample. Here you use solid sample. From the first appearance up to solubility you perform by using solid sample without dissolving in any liquid. So, how you can identify your cation and the anion through appearance of the sample? You're supposed to take a note on this one. It's very important. Your appearance should correlate with the answers on the last procedure for confirmatory test. Let's say appearance, we see the following things. Appearance, we see on appearance, or solid sample. Appearance of the solid sample, we see the following, and we are going to observe the color, that is one. We have the texture. The second property is we have a texture. The third, we look on smell or odor. Then the last, we have the liquid. When we see color, we have different sample with a different color. Like this one is blue, and we have another color which is white. That is color of the sample. So we have a color, we have a texture, we have a smell. There is a sample, there is a smell when you put it there on the watch glass. The liquescent, we mean absorption of water from the atmosphere. There is a sample like nitrate absorb water from atmosphere. So on appearance, we look on the following: color, texture, smell, or odor, or the liquescent. So how can you use these factors or these features to identify in a simple way what is your sample? In case of color, how can you identify your sample with a certain sample by using a color? In this case, we have different sample with different color. So in that case, we have a colored compound and a white compound. So we have the colored compound and the white compound. Or you can say this is salt and this is salt sample. So the colored compound are those transition elements. The colored compound are those transition elements. Transition element, there is iron, iron 2, iron 3, and the copper. So colored compound, there is iron 2, iron 3, and the copper 2 ion. Those are colored compound. Even white is color, but we differentiate by using which is different color from white. We say this is colored, and the white we put aside as another color. So white compound can be sodium, can be calcium, can be ammonia, can be zinc, and the lead. Those samples which are white is sodium, calcium, ammonium, zinc, and lead. That is, you can differentiate by using a color. So in that case, a colored compound, the feature of color represent or help us to show the presence of cations. It means color shows cations. Color shows cations. So by looking, this is white, you can expect that is there is sodium, calcium, ammonium, zinc, and lead, and not iron 2, iron 3, and then copper 2, which is white. And when you see the color which is different from white, let's say you see blue color, you can expect your sample to be iron 2, iron 3, and the copper 2. Let's say when you see this is blue color, by using your sheet, you can open it to see how color representing your sample. According to my sample here, blue representing copper. So you can neglect other sample because our sample is colored, which is different from white. That is a case of color. And then we look about the texture. How texture represent. Remember that our color represent or help us to know the presence of a certain cation or cation. The second is texture. How texture show us the presence of a certain compound. Remember that we find cation and anion. In color, it shows the presence of cation. Colored compound is iron 2, iron 3, and the copper. And those which are white is sodium, ammonium, calcium, lead, and zinc. So texture, which show in case of texture. When you see we have different texture. Texture we have crystalline form, and we have powder form. Those are texture. When we say texture, there is the fineness and the coarseness of the sample. So we have crystals which solid sample, and then we have a powder form the sample. So when you see the sample is crystal, you can expect it to have crystalline form. There is nitrate, there is sulfate, there is chlorine. When you see any compound which is crystalline form, you expect it to have nitrate, sulfate, and chloride, and not otherwise. And the powder form, we expect to have a carbonate and a hydrogen carbonate. That is a reality. You can identify your sample through appearance. So when you see crystal, mean that there is no carbonate or hydrogen carbonate. There is nitrate, sulfate, and chlorine. So you can cancel this one because your sample is crystal. And when you see your sample is powder, you can cancel the presence of nitrate, sulfate, and chlorine or chloride ion. So in case of color, we have expect we have cation, and in case of texture, show us or help us to know the presence of anion. So the texture represent presence of anion. So you can know very simple. When you meet with white compound, in case of color, you see there is sodium, ammonium, calcium, lead, zinc, and not iron 2, iron 3, and not copper 2 ion. And when you see colored compound, they say you have seen green color, blue color, or golden yellow. You cancel those which are white. And in case of texture, you see crystalline form. You cancel those which are represented by a powder. So you can identify by using the color and the texture through appearance. That is a reality on the test of appearance on qualitative analysis. So, and the appearance should correlate with the confirmatory test. For example, when we have said, for example, sodium chloride, according to, if you have understand the appearance, we have said the colored compound, there is iron 2, iron 3, and the copper. So those which is sodium is white, and our sample is crystalline form. So white represents sodium, and the crystal will represent anion, which is chlorine. So when you say my sample is white, and the confirmatory testing should show your compound cation and anion represent white color. When you say appearance is white crystal, on the appearance, on the confirmatory test, this is appearance. On the confirmatory test, you can say cation is copper, or anion, let's say, is carbonate, because your sample is crystal and is white. But when we say our sample is iron 2 sulfate, and your confirmatory testing should be represented by appearance. You have said iron 2 sulfate is pale green or light green. So your confirmatory testing should show the presence of a compound which is colored or which is light green. I think for today you have understand. Another lesson, we will study how to record the report on test of appearance. Remember that we have qualitative analysis report. Now we end up here. We study qualitative analysis, systematic procedure of qualitative analysis in one step, appearance of the solid sample. Thank you for listening.